I think we're live, and I think we're live across a couple different platforms. Um, so today we've got a little bit of a West Coast town hall. We've got some congressional candidates on the left coast, the best coast. My name is Albert Lee. I'm running for the 3rd District of Oregon to Congress. I know that I am joined by some phenomenal folks, and we're going to start off with Angelica. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thank you so much for making this happen. Angelica Duenas, I am running for Congress in California's 29th Congressional District in the Los Angeles area. And we are running a platform that's 100% people powered. And we are running, championing Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, affordable housing as a right, along with, criminal justice reform, immigration reform, and all the issues that we all care about. And running against corporate Democrat Tony Cardenas, and we won our seat here in the primary. We made it to the general, and we're looking at our going head to head against Tony in November, and we're hoping to go ahead and take back the seat for the people of our community, and to fight for the issues that matter for all of us, nationwide. And we're trying to make Bernie's platform a reality.
Here to that. And Angelica, so it's this is California, so it's a jungle primary, right? It's all parties at once, and you are the top two finisher?
Yes. So right here, it's the top two regardless of your party. So sometimes you have two of the same party going against each other. So at this point, yeah, it's two Democrats facing off head to head in November.
So we're talking about the progressive Democrat yourself and a corporate Democrat you're challenging, who is the incumbent, correct?
Yes, he's been around since 1996. He was assemblyman for about 8 years, city councilman for 10 years, and now going on 8 years in Congress. And we have very little to show for it. So we're looking to take back the seat for the people. And we actually believe that we need to seek out positions of power and occupy them at all levels. And we want to show people that you don't need to take corporate money. You don't need super PAC money to win, and that the issues are the ones that matter. And people power can win these seats, and we're looking forward to show our progressive siblings that together we can win, and we will win.
Well, congratulations on getting to the general. We look forward to seeing what happens in November. I'm looking forward to you winning.
We really are, because it's not about, it really is, it's the same thing as, we've been hearing. It's not me, it's us. And, we're running, I think that you feel the same way, and I think CJ, the same way. We're running because nobody else is running for these issues. Nobody else is fighting these fights. And we understand that we're not perfect. We're not your traditional candidate. But at this point, the politics as usual, there's no room for that. So we need to push the narrative and make sure that we are the ones that are controlling this fight, because it is our fight. It's the people's fight. And I think that politics is just a tool to make things, to make changes happen. It's really, what it comes down to, it's a bottom-up effort. And us running these campaigns is super important, because it really helps us organize, and it really helps us mobilize our community. So if winning doesn't always look like winning, so we are going to be successful either way, but we definitely are running to win, and we want to go ahead and take over this seat in the 29th Congressional District, and show and be an example for other candidates running across the nation, and who are thinking about it, and who will be, to be able to do the same. And we can make a brand new Congress really happen.
Yes, and I think you're saying it right. You hit the nail right on the head when you're talking about a Congress that, for right now, over 52% of them are millionaires, right? The majority of Congress are a part of the 1%. And politics is about who gets what and how. And the who gets what and how is really depending on who's there. And right now, when you have a Congress, 535 seats, where the majority of the folks are coming from the 1%, they're not going to have the understanding of knowing how people struggle, what they need, or how to really tend to or care for them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. CJ, how's it going?
Pretty good. How
about yourself? Tell us a little bit about what's going on with you.
Yeah, so I ran in District 30 in California, right next to Angelica's district. Unfortunately, we lost. We got 3rd place out of 5 candidates, but we did get 18,000 votes, which was, I believe in the last election cycle, our progressive candidate only got, I think he got like 6,000 votes. So, it's a big step up, and it's actually the most votes that any Democratic challenger has gotten in this district in the last 30 years.
Oh, wow.
So that was a pretty good feat. But we're just here to continue fighting for these progressive ideals. One of my main things that I'm passionate about is climate change, and getting money out of politics, ending the wars, and then getting Medicare for all. So those are the things that I'm really passionate about and fighting for.
Well, all of those things are wrapped up together, right? I mean, it's the money in politics that is the root of all of those issues when it comes to climate change, when it comes to the endless war, when it comes to the lack of universal health care. It's because somebody's making a buck off of it. And so while you may not have made it to the general election by, and quite frankly, you're next door to Angelica's district, but each district is different, right? It's like real estate. So tell us a little bit more about your district, and I know you highlighted how this is the most that a progressive has gotten in there. Tell us a little bit more about the district.
Yeah, so it's in LA in the San Fernando Valley. It's predominantly, I believe it's like it's predominantly a white area, but there's about like 30% of the population is Hispanic, and you have a lot of middle class people, you have some young people, but you also have some older people. So it's it's pretty diverse, I'd say. But there are a lot of people in the district that are a little bit more upper middle class. So,
yeah. And here's the thing. I mean, despite the fact that you're not going to the general election, you have made a movement and helped push the progressive movement forward simply by standing up, simply by saying, hey, I think that it's time that we have some representation for the people. So I applaud you, and I really appreciate you being here with us to discuss all these issues, because despite not moving on to November, you still have a voice, and you still are need to help us all move this needle and move the ball forward so that we can have a government that works for all of us and not just the wealthy few.
Yeah, definitely. So
lastly, I want to kind of introduce Sam. He's a part of the Albert Lee campaign. He's going to act as our moderator today. And so we've got a series of different things that we want to talk about. But at the same time, for those folks that are tuning in, if you have questions, feel free to jump in and send your questions in. We have folks that are monitoring the various platforms to see if questions come in. And I do believe we have folks that are monitoring both Angelica and CJ's platforms as well. So if you've got questions, feel free to add them, and we'll get to them. But Sam, can you take it away and let us know about what we're doing here?
Well, first and foremost, we can't talk in the year 2020 without talking about the coronavirus now. As the coronavirus gets worse, a lot of us are talking about how it could have been. So in your vision, how would you see this as being different had Bernie won in 2016 and then in 2017 or so on been able to introduce a more progressive health system?
Who wants to go first?
Well, I think the first thing is that people wouldn't be afraid to get tested. They wouldn't be afraid of coming out of the hospital with a $3,000 bill just to get tested. So if Bernie's Medicare for All were in place, we'd be able to do free testing in mass numbers. We'd be able to track the numbers and trace who had it and who they were in contact with, and basically just stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on the head, hit the nail on the head right there, but there's other things as well. I mean, with this crisis, we've seen a lot of people lose their jobs. This is an indication and a demonstration that our current system of employee-based private health insurance is failing. It's failing us right now. When you lose your job, you lose your health insurance. Just today, there was an article out, I think it was on CNN, where the last words of a dying patient with COVID-19 to his wife was, how are we going to pay for this? That's not what you should be thinking about on your deathbed. And quite frankly, he shouldn't be on his deathbed. We should have a system that's going to take care of all of us. If we had a Bernie Sanders president from 2016, I think we would be so much further along with getting a universal healthcare system, implemented. And if it wasn't implemented by now, it would definitely be implemented now with this crisis, because this crisis demonstrates the need to take care of all of us, because this crisis, this COVID-19 doesn't look at your income. It doesn't look at your socioeconomic background. It attacks all folks. Unfortunately, at the same time that it's attacking all folks, marginalized folks are getting impacted at a greater extent. Angelica, would you like to talk about a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with the both of you. I mean, if we would have been able to implement Medicare for all in 2017, let's say, I think we would have had a completely different field game here. We would have had people who would have, again, not been afraid to be tested, because they, you know, a lot of the people's apprehension is, oh, how am I going to pay for this bill? What if it's not COVID-19 and now I'm stuck with a bill? And you know, everybody knows, even when you have insurance, going to the hospital, even if you did your due diligence and you checked who was in network and who was out of network, we come to realize that the system is broken, and everybody who touches you is not necessarily contracted with the same people that the building is contracted with. So you end up having all this out-of-pocket expenses, and on top of that, like you said, when you have your insurance tied to your job, and now we're dealing with this, something that who could have really seen this coming. Now we're seeing the effects. These are the things that we were trying to warn people about, and we were warning people about with lots of time and lots of I think research to back us up. Now we're dealing with the fallout with the, and I think that what I find interesting is that still we are seeing that the establishment is so apprehensive and just putting, you know, barriers in order to make this a reality. We have the Democratic establishment. It almost seems like putting a harder fight against a Medicare for all system. You even hear Trump that he got it so that at least COVID is a universal coverage, meaning that regardless of where you're at, who you are, whether you're documented or undocumented, you're going to get coverage. So I think that it's a very interesting time. I think that the general public can now see. I think we were already in pre-COVID times, we were seeing 60% of the population agreeing that Medicare for all is really the solution. We have like 80% of Democrats already on board with the idea. About 60% or so of Republicans, or 50 some odd percent of Republicans were on board. I would like to see those numbers now.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very clear that we need to move towards a Medicare for all system, not only for humanity, because it's the humane thing to do. It's actually the smart thing to do for our health system, for our community health system. I think that it's pretty clear that we're only as safe as the least covered person in our area, right? That we're only as safe as they are. And if they're not being protected, you know, we're all in danger of getting sick. And it shouldn't have taken a pandemic to get us to this point. But now that we're here, what are we going to do about it? And I think that this is the time that we need to really see how our elected officials are behaving. And I think it is very transparent for many of us to see at the end of this all where people's loyalties lie. And when you take big money from corporations, big pharma, et cetera, I think that we're going to be, I think it's pretty clear where their loyalties are going to lie, but let's take a look. In the meantime, we need to fight for all of these, all of our rights. I think that Bernie Sanders is doing a great job on keeping the fight going for Medicare for all. And I think that everybody needs to get behind it, because now more than ever, it's clear to see that that the system is not working, and people are literally dying, and they're going to continue to die from COVID, from cancer, from anything really that could have been prevented if we had the system to do so. And this goes also for the rural areas, which are, you know, mainly Republican. You know, they are lacking of health centers and access to doctors. How are we protecting those people? I think that, you know, a universal healthcare system, it is what it is. It's universal, and we all benefit for it, and we all benefit from having a healthy community. So this is a standard that the United States of America should be able to meet up without any problem. We have the resources.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You know, they talk about Medicare for all, single payer Medicare for all, costing $27 trillion. They like to throw that number out there, right? $27 trillion. What they neglect to tell you is that it's actually the most affordable outcome. That a private health insurance regime is going to be $34 trillion. that every other plan that has come out from all the other presidential candidates actually costs more than Senator Sanders' plan.
And this plan actually covers everybody. So this money is actually going directly towards health care versus, all of these executives up on top and denying care left and right. So it's the smart thing to do, is the fiscally conservative thing to do. Actually, it makes actually no sense for us not to go to a universal healthcare system, Medicare for all.
Unless you're getting paid to think otherwise, right? I mean, I've got a member of Congress here that I'm challenging, a 24-year incumbent. You said 1996 when you were talking about your guy.
Well, he's been broken up though. He has only been in Congress for 8 years. Your guy's been there for a long time.
Yeah, so my guy's been there for 24 years, and then if you add everything up, he's been in politics for almost 50 years. And here's the thing, during those 50 years, he's only held one job outside of elected office. I think that when you're so far removed from the people, you don't understand what regular people are struggling, how they're struggling, what they need. I think that you need to have folks who are on, within those walls for so long. Quite frankly, I think that we need term limits, because the combination of the money in politics and gerrymandering really gets us to a point where we have these elite career multimillionaire politicians that are really there for the benefit of the people that pay them. And so, like I said, my guy, he takes a lot of money from health insurance professionals, health insurance companies. He says he's for Medicare for all, but actions speak a lot louder than words,
Absolutely. I mean, at least my guy doesn't lie about it. He's not for Medicare for all.
Yeah.
So a lot of blame is going around, and a lot of people want to find out how they can prevent this kind of thing from happening again. As a representative, would you seek any repercussions against China for the spread of the disease? If so, what measures? And if not, how would you respond?
Who wants to go first on this one?
Yeah, I'll go. I don't think we should, I don't think we should be going to war over China or implementing any sanctions. If anything, we should be, working with them to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But I think these repercussions only sow more hate, division, and racial attacks against, people like myself who are Asian American. And also COVID, the first cases actually reached, the United States and South Korea on the first day. Yet South Korea only has 10,000 cases confirmed compared to our 395,000 cases. So that's 395 times more than them. And the Trump administration received reports in December and January that could affect millions of people. But, Trump didn't take action. He put Pence and Jared Kushner in charge of it, and they have no experience dealing with these kind of things. And then Trump said himself that he refuses to take responsibility for the results of this. So, we shouldn't be blaming China. The only person we should be blaming is Trump, and for his failure to act on this. South Korea, they have around like 200 deaths right now, while we have 12,000. Again, that's, there's a huge difference there. The fact that he downplayed this for 2 months, that he didn't push for lockdowns, he hasn't used the Defense Production Act. He fired the entire pandemic response team in 2018. We have no one else to blame other than Trump himself.
Yeah, so I like to highlight what you talk about, the comparison between South Korea and the United States. South Korea, first of all, has a single-payer universal Medicare for all health system, so that they are treating everyone, citizens and non-citizens alike. Secondly, coordinated efforts, instead of looking for who the boogeyman is, address the problem that's at hand, right? Take a look and try to get that and use your collective actions and your collective resources to do that. Now, as far as, trying to lay blame and figuring out what the source is, look, we're going to have issues that are coming from around the world. And if you really want to focus on laying blame, you can lay blame on capitalism. I mean, capitalism is what makes the world go round. It is why we've had folks traveling all over the country, all over the world. In fact, a lot of these different countries that have had their index case of COVID come in, they came in from business people from Europe. Case in point, when the crisis first hit China, Mongolia closed its borders with China and was like focused on, oh, let's keep it out from China. And they got their index case from a Frenchman who flew in from Moscow on business to Ulaanbaatar. So again, you know, if you focus all of your attention and your efforts on one area, you're going to miss the blind spots you have, you know. But I don't think we should be focused on taking blame or making blame. I think we should be focusing on addressing the issues and taking care of the people.
No, yeah, I would agree. I mean, right now, what this is an opportunity for this is what international relations are all about. To be blaming China, and I think that we're already seeing an influx of racist actions going out of this. So this would just make this a whole lot worse. But my question is, like, did they really have you know? I feel like you guys mentioned, they did try their best to alert, you know what I mean, the world that this was happening. And I think that what we had here in the United States was a downplaying of these warnings that we were given. We were at a place that we really were given a gift by being able to see what was happening in China and being able to have like a month or two of lead time that they had in dealing with the pandemic. They gave us some time to start preparing. The fact that the pandemic team was fired right back in 2018, I believe, or 2017, and the game plan as to how to deal with this was just like completely ignored. You know, the warning signs were there. I don't know if China is really to blame in this case here. I think like you guys mentioned, it's a time to be able to work together and really work at preventing this from happening again, and really work in partnership for solutions. What's working out over there, what's not working out over here, and sharing of resources. And I think that we are seeing that. But I think here in the United States, with the Trump administration's ridiculous mismanagement of the situation, and the continued mismanagement of the situation, it's really not the way. And it's already like the reaction of the general public with the Chinese people, and the added racist attacks that people have been dealing with, from direct violent attacks to businesses being affected, and it just goes on. We cannot further this narrative, you know, this racist narrative. I mean, we were with the Chinese coronavirus, the Wuhan, like, I mean, they were already pushing this narrative. It's getting pushed really hard, and I don't agree with it. I think that this is something that it's an opportunity to work together. It's an opportunity to find solutions together, and it's an opportunity to prevent this from happening again. Because what it was a catastrophe. And I think that all of these missed opportunities that we had is something that we can learn from.
Yeah.
Speaking of missed opportunities, one of the carriers of this disease has to be the houselessness crisis that goes across much of the West Coast, which includes both Portland and much of California. How would you go about solving a houselessness crisis, and how do you think it would play a different role in a future epidemic?
Yeah, you know, when I first moved to the West Coast, to Portland in 2005, that was the first thing that I noticed about Portland, was that we had a critical houselessness situation. And when I returned in 2015, that situation was super critical. Nothing has really been done to address the issues when it comes to housing people. Number one, the United Nations says housing is a human right. They've said so for 40 years. We have done very little to take care of people. It's a humanitarian issue. We have people living in tents, living rough on the streets. This should not be happening in the wealthiest nation in the world. Now, I believe that there are three things that we need to do, and we need to do right now. The first is we need to have a housing first program. You know, we see the model in Salt Lake City. We see the model in New Orleans. We see the model in Scandinavia. Housing first works. It is providing housing for those who do not have it without preconditions, without saying that you need to get off of drugs, without saying that you need to have your mental health checked or whatever, just to provide that stability, that basic stability first, so that you can then address all those other issues. Now, you make that housing first program with a single payer universal Medicare for all system that has mental health coverage, that has drug dependency treatment, that has all of the things that you need to take care of those higher needs. Those two things together would help to mitigate the houselessness crisis immediately. Now, the next thing you need to address is the lack of living wages and the lack of affordable housing. We've had a minimum wage that has remained flat for over 40 years. We need to make that a living wage. If you just peg the minimum wage from the 1970s to inflation, it should be $33 an hour today. In Portland, they say you need to make at least $28 an hour to have one full-time job and to take care of your family. So I agree. I think that we need to have a living wage, and $15, the fight for 15 was a great start. It was the first step, but we need to have a living wage. So housing first, universal health care, and a living wage will help to alleviate our houselessness crisis.
Yeah, I think another thing to add to that is, we can't have affordable housing if we keep having elected officials that keep taking money from real estate developers. So that's probably one of the first things we also need to address. But yeah, I definitely agree on the housing first. I also think that we should, be investing more into our homeless assistance funding and grants. We need to be investing more in housing funding and, Section 8 programs. And then I think another thing that we could do immediately, with the recent CARES Act, we gave $600 billion to individuals and families, $500 billion to big businesses. Another thing that we could do is, it costs $20 billion to end homelessness in the United States. We could just add, that's 1% of the CARES Act. You could add housing in right there. So that's another thing that I'd probably want to implement in the next stimulus plan.
I disagree with you when it comes to the Section 8 housing. Instead of Section 8 housing, I would really like to see social housing, where I mean truly mixed income social housing, because we've seen what happens when you ghettoize, where you have projects, and then all of a sudden you defund those projects, and then you say, well, those projects failed. But if you have true social mixed income social housing, where you have people from different strata living together, you're going to build in a stronger, more cohesive community, and have everybody pay, what they can from their percentage of their income.
Yeah, that works.
No, I do agree that in regards to solving homelessness, we do need to move, and I think many local areas regionally are moving towards housing first. Here in Los Angeles, slowly, that's what's happening, but unfortunately, it's the lack of housing. And I think as in regards to the solutions, it should be a mixture of repurposing buildings that are already there. I think that there's a lot of buildings, and there's a lot of county and state, federal, government-owned land that we can already utilize and maximize for housing. And what we need to move towards is an affordable housing model, where it doesn't cap out, like you were saying, in regards to like projects and other things like that, where it really incentivizes you to not mobilize yourself and not to raise up, because if you make $200 more a month, all of a sudden you lose your housing, you need to move out. So instead of being $200 up, I'm actually like $1,000 down, because now I have to pay way more for rent and all of these things. So what we really need to move towards in regards to housing is an affordable housing model, where it's a percentage of your income and it caps out, and you continue, so you can keep on mobilizing yourself up. You can keep on improving your life and not be limited by being caught in the middle, or the donut hole, however you want to call it, where in order for you to raise up out of that poverty, you actually need to start making like $2,000 more a month out of nowhere in order to be able to really actually raise yourself up. And that's kind of like a conservative model of that. So we need to move towards a housing first period. We need to move towards affordable housing. And how we can get there, I think, like I said, it's a matter of repurposing already government-owned properties, and encouraging or really demanding that our local entities, city councils, regional governments implement their power of eminent domain and take over bank-owned homes and make them be available for Section 8 housing and all these things that we already have in place. In our district, we have a lot of families with a Section 8 voucher, but nowhere to go. So they're stuck in a hotel room and they've been there for years. We have people who have been in a hotel room for years, and they have to move every 28 days because of, you can't be in one place in a hotel. They're living, miserably. And at the end of it all, the solution is so much cheaper. Being able to acquire all these homes would be cheaper than all of these hotel vouchers that we're paying out. It makes zero sense. It makes zero sense. So all of these things that that we are experiencing, it comes down to money in politics. Follow the money. Look at where these people are getting their money from. From big pharma, Medicare for all is not going to happen. From big real estate, affordable housing units are not going to happen. The list goes on. From private utilities, well, we're not going to get our rates lowered. So it's pretty clear that our representatives, and I would say like 99.9% of them, have been purchased by the corporatists in this country, and it has nothing to do with party. It has nothing to do with red versus blue, and left versus right. It's right versus wrong. It's us versus them, and they're not with us. So that's why we need to actively, systematically take over these seats and support candidates who are pushing for these issues. Because bottom line, if we don't do it, nobody else is, and we've already had our representatives show and had enough time. There's no more time to waste. We need to move forward. We need to fight for the issues that matter, and our elected officials with dirty money are not gonna do that. They're not able to do that for us.
Two sides of the same ruling class.
Well, is there any thing you would do as far as legislation to prevent having that kind of money in politics? What are your options?
Yes.
Well, of course you would push for it, but what is your strategy, rather?
Oh, man, I think you need a popular uprising. I think we need to call people out. I mean, when we get to Congress, I guarantee that we're going to call people out. We're going to say, hey, why'd you vote that way? Is it because of this? Is it because of that? I think we need to bring more of that to light. We need to expose those things. I mean, we saw in the last couple of weeks where we had 4 or 5 members of Congress and their stock trades that they did after getting inside information about the crisis. Instead of taking care of addressing the issues that we have and the subsequent deaths that were coming, they decided that it was more important that they cash out and make sure that their money was okay. And it was the same thing when it came to the trillions of dollars injected into Wall Street. That was to save the asses or the assets of the 1%, as opposed to, taking care of the people. I mean, and then when we actually had the CARES Act, $500 billion without strings attached go to big corporations. We had a system where we had trillions of dollars without deliberation, without discussion, immediately go to Wall Street. Then after deliberation and discussion, somehow $500 billion got slipped in for corporations, and the rest of us may, if we check all the boxes, may get $1,200 at some point in May, which is, by God, too far, too late, too little, too late. Especially, I mean, that's not even gonna cover a lot of people's rent for 1 month, let alone 2 or 3 months down the line. We need to get all of these corporate Dems, corporate Republicans, they're two sides of the same ruling class, out. We need to get more citizen representatives who know the struggle, who won't take corporate contributions, who will truly fight for and represent the people in. And the more that we talk about it, the more that we expose it, the more that this is going to happen. 2015, 2016, Bernie Sanders really ignited and sparked a lot of us. It was the first time that I ever gave contribution to a politician, because first of all, before that, politician to me was a liar, a crook, and a thief, until I came across Bernie. 40 years of fighting for the working man, 40 years of fighting for regular, everyday people, without changing course, without checking where the wind's blowing, actually just doing the people's work. We need more people like that. We had a slew come in 2018, and I'm hoping that we get another slew of folks come in 2020. And I guarantee if that happens, we will have a voting bloc, and a voting bloc that's going to be able to affect change.
What about you, Angelica, as far as if you're in office, what would you do beyond just exposing your fellow Congress people to enact some kind of change on the money in politics problem?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would definitely be a supporter of ending Citizens United. I think that that's key, and that's a fight that's been going on for quite a while now, and that's something that we would definitely shine a light to. And very definitely, I mean, they say, oh, you have to go in there, you have to go make friends, and you have to build alliances, and then we're gonna go there with the plan of building partnerships and working towards the better to better our communities, our country. But we're also going to be like Albert said, we have no problems calling people out because our allegiance is to the people, and we also have no problems giving people credit where it's deserved. I think that if we find that going across the aisle gets us somewhere, if we dealing with independents, if dealing with these Democrats that maybe before didn't but now they are coming around. I think that comes down to it, like we need to give credit where credit is due, but in the meantime we also need to call people out and be unafraid to expose people. We're not there to make friends. I know that I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to make some changes happen and make improvements happen. And I think that pushing for Citizens United to be removed is key. In the meantime, we need to write simple, straightforward legislation where it'll be very clear if we get support or not, where people stand on the issues, and keeping our legislation clean. 900 odd pages of stuff is not really what it helps the people. I think it's the perfect disguise to really take over our economy. I mean, like what you guys said, what we saw in this first stimulus package that just came out, the stimulus bill, is an absolute disaster. It's embarrassing. It's disgusting. I'm almost like upset that everybody voted for it. I thought that it was going to pass, but people should have been able to speak up against it, say no, and these are the reasons why. It was going to pass anyway. And I think that we need to have people who are unafraid to be bold. Because if you would have broken down the package, and let's say every American got an equal part, each one of us would have gotten over $7,000 a piece. So a one-time payment of $1,200 is an insult. And for it to be, we don't even know when it's coming. We don't know who's actually going to get it. We don't know how it's going to be paid out. What if you didn't do your taxes? I mean, there's all these things that we are trying to even know how is this going to happen. Meantime, rent is due, mortgage is due, utilities are due, everything else is due, and our money stopped coming in. My husband was laid off due to his employer having to shut down because of the coronavirus. So we, the people, are being left to figure out how we're going to pay for things. How are we going to take care of our homes? We're over here teaching our kids too, because school is out, but school's still going. How is it that we're supposed to take care of all of these things without anything coming through? Government told us to stay home. We're doing our duty. We're doing what we're being asked to do in order to make this pandemic end. So they need to do what they need to do and take care of us. There's no other if, ands, or buts about it. Because what's going to happen is once this thing curves out, we're going to be out on the street. And we know where you live. We know where you are. We know where you meet. And you can't get away from us for much longer. And what we're seeing here locally is we're seeing that people are paying visits to our LA City Council members and reminding them that what they need to do is back the people, and that we're going to remember. And that's what they need to keep in mind, is that we are not going to stand down. They want to talk about a digital DNC. Yeah, I know why. I know why. Okay, they're scared. And they should be, because things have gotten to the point that we cannot just sit by and be idle. I have 5 kids, and I cannot stand and just let this stuff happen without a fight. That's it. Now or never. And I really, really, really believe that. And I really hope that people who are dealing with this this pandemic and all the blowback that we're dealing with, the people who are expected to go out there and put their lives on the line for minimum wage, okay? They're essential workers, farmers that are farm workers and fruit pickers that are being paid pennies for the per unit. They need to be compensated. We all need to be compensated. We've been taking, this has been going on for too long, okay? The bailout after bailout, regardless if you're Republican, Democrat, red, blue, white, yellow, it doesn't freaking matter. When it comes down to these elite, these corporatists, okay, are stealing our economy. They're stealing our vitality. They're stealing everything from under us, everything from the water to the electricity to now our economy. You know, all of this it's just showing us that the system is broken, and our elections are being tampered with. We're seeing that people's well-being is being put to the side in order for their chicanery to continue. So what we're seeing is that you know, what I feel we're doing here with running for office and utilizing the electoral system is we're giving the system a non-violent way, a non-violent option,
a political revolution.
A political revolution, because I mean, history has shown us that in order for change to happen, you know, violence happens, and I don't want that to happen. But I think at this point, I have no problem putting my body on the line if that's necessary in order to make these changes happen, because my children don't have the luxury or the time for these people to do what's right. Okay, they've had the time, and I think we've seen that very clearly, and now is the time for the people. Hopefully we can have enough people paying attention and educate those who are not able to be, because we are a privileged class, even us who are struggling. The fact that we're able to comprehend these issues and really able to understand these issues, we are privileged. So we need to make sure that our siblings who don't have the time, the ability, or they're just been so traumatized by everything that they've shut down, to be able to let them know, like, you know what, this is the time. We need to rise up, and together we will. Because it only takes about 3% of the population to make an uprise happen.
Leverage.
And how many
Absolutely.
of us are unemployed right now, right? I think like it's just like, you know, a quarter of us were to go out into the streets and get things popping. I think we make some changes happen real quick.
You know, this is a whole repeat of 2008 all over again, with the financial bailout of Bear Stearns, the automotive industry, all of Wall Street, the people that got us in the mess in the first place. They got bailed out, but Main Street didn't get bailed out. People in their mortgages didn't get bailed out. We got left holding the bag. And I hear what you're saying. You know, we've had over 40 years of kleptocracy when it comes to everything with the money in politics. It started in the 70s with Buckley v. Vallejo, moved all the way up to Citizens United. We have these career politicians that have been in 20, 30, 40 years, okay? All they're doing
it's both sides, isn't it? It's both sides. Both sides. Two sides of the same ruling class is what you say.
Two sides of the same ruling class. And if we do not get rid of this elite corporate oligarchy and replace them with citizen representatives, you know, if we don't have that political revolution, I agree with Angelica. You know, there's only another option. There's only another option. And that's a non-political revolution. I'd rather not see that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that that's what we've all been fighting for. That's what Bernie Sanders has been fighting for consistently for over 30 years. And this is something that, you know, we can come to a resolution in a peaceful manner. I think that we've tried really hard. I think we're following the rules, but it's really hard to keep on fighting or you know, it's kind of like playing a game of cards, and then they keep on switching the rules. Oh no, this one's the joker. Oh no, this one's the free card. Oh no, not this one. Oh, you have that one, not that one anymore. You know, it's crazy. It's really crazy. So you know, we're trying our best to learn the rules, and then they don't even follow their own rules. You know what I mean? And they tell you in court that they don't have to because they're a private entity. So then why are we playing these games? You know, why are we playing these games? But, you know, in the meantime, we are trying to do what we can. But I think that's very clear that the electoral system is just a tool. and what are we going to do with it? I feel that, you know, our so sorry, somebody sent me a message and it distracted me. And I, you know what, I got lost. But point being that we really do need to make sure that these issues are the ones that we bring to the forefront, or else nobody else is going to. And it's very clear. It's very clear that without getting money out of politics, without organizing from the bottom up, we're not going to make changes happen. Oh yeah, I was just remembered. So my thing is, I really feel that locally is really where our power is really going to be. So what are we going to do if we get elected in office? We're going to be one out of, you know, 500 some odd people in the House. What are we going to do locally? How can we organize here locally and empower our community? And I think that's really where it's key. You know, being an elected, you have an office, you have a budget, and you have the ability to really give your community the tools necessary for them to be able to be empowered and, you know, run the movements and develop these organizations that we need on the ground to make real changes happen. Education programs that we're going to be able to facilitate by empowering our community. So those are the things that we really can do locally, and that's a guarantee that we can make changes happen. And in the grand scheme of things, obviously calling people out, making sure that we're writing good legislation, clean legislation, and having, even if nothing gets passed because nobody wants to work with us, guess what? People are going to know who didn't work with us and why isn't this solid common sense legislation not getting passed. I think that we can use our platform to really highlight people who are coming around and really highlight people who are not. And that's the only way change is going to happen. We need to educate the masses. And I think that with our local office, I would really love for all of us to get into office, because that would make a lot of different hubs of organizing become a reality. And what we really need to focus on is on a bottom up approach. And it's in a mixture of us running for office. I think it's great. And yeah, we need to make sure that we're making these changes happen. And once we're in office, empower our community, because without a bottom up movement, these changes will not be happening.
It's time that we stop having ALEC and SIX writing our legislation. We need to have representatives actually doing their jobs. In addition to that, I think that we do need to have publicly financed campaigns. You know, we're regular everyday people. We're struggling to do these campaigns. We're 100% funded by the people. But the reality is, you know, we shouldn't be running for office for over a year. This should be something short, 12 weeks, and it should be publicly funded.
Publicly funded, yeah, exactly.
You know, this is ridiculous. You know, our incumbent raised 10 times as much as we have. But if you take the 65% that he raised from corporations and the 95% if you take the corporations and PAC money in total, we've raised the same amount of money. And so what I'd say is, instead of having us running around trying to grab money from everybody and you know, we're raising money from people who have the least to give, you know, the people.
Exactly.
Instead of having that, we should have them publicly financed.
Absolutely.
We should be actually talking about the merits of our case, the merits of our candidacy, comparing apples to apples. Who is the better candidate? Not who can raise the most money to get the most name recognition.
I definitely agree.
And of course, we could talk about that all day, but I think that's a good place to leave it. I want to give each of you the chance to just promote your own websites and social media platforms before we go. Albert, start with you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. My name again is Albert Lee. I'm running for the 3rd District of Oregon to Congress. I'm running because I believe that democracy requires choice. We face a series of crises here in the district, across the country, and around the world that require bold action now. And I believe in the basic tenets of the Democratic Party when it comes to equity, diversity, and inclusion. I think it's time that we uplift some new voices from some other backgrounds, from some other lived experiences, to represent us here in the most diverse district of our state. And lastly, and most importantly, I think it's time that we end this oligarchy, this rule by elite multimillionaire politicians, and replace them with citizen representatives who know the struggle, who won't take corporate contributions, and will truly represent and fight for the people. If you want to learn more, if you want to contribute to the campaign, please do so at albertlee2020.com. We have plenty of ways for you to volunteer as well, even during this COVID crisis. Thank you. And I'm very grateful to be here with these two wonderful people. Thank you so much.
CJ?
Yeah, sure. So my name's CJ Berina. You can check me out at cjforcongress2020.com. Fortunately, our race is already over, but I'm hopping on Angelica's team and going to be helping out with her campaign as much as possible, as well as starting some other progressive campaigns out here in the San Fernando Valley. But other than that, you can also check me out on Twitter. We've been getting a few viral tweets there. The Twitter is CJ4 Congress 2020.
And Angelica.
Hi, yes, again, so my name is Angelica Duenas, and I'm running here in California's 29th Congressional District. My website is angelicaforcongress.com, and we are running a 100% people-powered campaign. We're fighting for Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, affordable housing as a human right. We are running against a corporate Democrat who will not meet with Medicare for all activists, who will not stand up for a Green New Deal, and who does not believe that affordable housing is a human right. We are running in order to win back this seat for the people, and we are 100% people powered, so we do need your help. We need funds because it takes money to make sure that we can scale out the campaign necessary to win. And we need volunteers, so especially if you're local, please, angelicaforcongress.com, click on the volunteer tab, and we will get back to you. We will also be setting ourselves up for phone banking as well, so even if you're not local, there will be opportunities to volunteer. And I just want to say thank you so much for Albert for putting this together, Albert's team to putting this together. And I look forward to our success.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks to all three of you for sacrificing so much for this cause. And I just want to say thank you to the viewers and listeners at home. All right, that'll do it for us.
Thanks. Thanks, Sam.
Bye, everyone. Yep. Have a good night.